Welcome to episode 171 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent and Jason here. What's going on?
Not much. What's going on with you?
Well, I'm here and we've got Adam Joad back.
Well, then there is something going on.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Fourth time that Adam Joad's been here.
Yes.
And I believe that makes him the only person besides Mike DiPetrillo to be on here that many times.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
We've had bands on here that many times, different people like Battlecross.
Yes.
All that great stuff, but Adam Joad makes his return. First three podcasts he was on was the full band. This time it's just him.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. We got that here in just a few minutes. Before we get into that, we need to let you know that we're sponsored here by DEB Concerts and Vitz Screen Printing. Vitz Screen Printing, screen printer out of Oklahoma City. They do all kinds of t-shirts, hoodies, hats, anything you need screen printed. They can do it for you. Get on Facebook and follow them, Vitz Screen Printing. That's VITS. They do a lot of band t-shirts, so if you've got a band anywhere in the country, they can ship it to you, no problem.
Yep.
You can order it online, all that great stuff. They do our t-shirts.
Of course.
Yeah.
Which you need to get one.
Yeah. thethunderunderground.com. Just click on the merch button, and it'll take you right there. We've got our original shirts up there, but we should have new shirts from Vitz Screen Printing here coming in within the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that. And if you're coming to Oklahoma, of course, hit us up there for that as well.
Definitely.
DEB Concerts is a promotion company here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, run by Doug Burgess. And they bring in all kinds of kick-ass bands that we love. Bands from the 80s rock, early 90s rock era.
Yes.
In the past, they've brought in bands like Dokken, Warrant, Firehouse, Tom Kiefer, LA Guns. They're bringing May 30th, which is the Wednesday after next, or no, two and a half weeks. 2 weeks from this Wednesday. There we go.
Gotcha.
Stripers coming back to Tulsa.
Nice.
I believe this is their first time in Tulsa since Streets Gone Wild. Played in Oklahoma City after that, but saw them both those. They were great. They've got Driver opening up this show, which we all know is great as well.
Oh, yeah. We love those guys.
What else we got? July 26th, Steelheart is playing at Safari Joe's H2O Water Park.
Nice. I'll be there.
Yeah. Why? Because Mila Medjedovic is like one of the greatest human vocalists on this earth.
Pretty much. I mean, you're not gonna find too many better than him.
And we got the mighty Rev Jones on bass.
Yes.
2 days after that, Bisto Blanco, Ideal Ballroom. I didn't mention Striper was at Ideal Ballroom.
Yes.
Bisto Blanco has Driver as well opening along with Down for Five. And that show is absolutely free. DB Concerts said that they're putting that on as a thank you to everybody for coming to all their shows the last couple of years. So be sure and get out and check that out. It's got Chuck Garrick, the bassist for Alice Cooper. He's in that band along with Calico Cooper. And then
Alice Cooper's daughter.
Yeah. I figured that might have been self-explanatory. Yeah. I don't know. August 18th, Faster Pussycat, also at Ideal Ballroom. Don Jameson is also on tour with him, doing his brand of comedy that only he can do.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. Love Don Jameson, and Faster Pussycat is one of the best sleaze bands from that era. And then on that one, we've got Dead Metal Society opening that show.
Nice.
And right here in all that midst, I mentioned Dead Metal Society and Down for Five. Coming up about a week from today, or maybe tomorrow, we're going to have our Rocklahoma preview episode, but it also includes a pretty long interview with Nine from Dead Metal Society and Scott from Down for Five.
Yes, that was a good one. That was a really fun one.
Both of them are playing Rocklahoma, and they talk a lot about this Rocklahoma and past Rocklahomas that they've played.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love talking to those guys.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for that one here in the next week. And until then, we've also got Boba Flex coming up. And some other cool things that you might find out about soon.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, you want to just jump right into some music?
Yes.
Okay, speaking of Rocklahoma, we've got a band here that is playing Rocklahoma on the Axis stage on Saturday. This band is called Duel. This song is Heart of the Sun.
I feel your world exploding there.
Heart of the Sun from Duel, from their album Witch Banger.
Nice. Witch Banger.
Right off the bat, you know you've got something good when that's your album title.
Best album title ever.
That's right. Are you a witch banger? Not currently. You used to be.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was the good one. Good one. You got jokes today. That one kind of took me off guard. I am not now, but yes, I was. Dark times, my friend. Dark times. No more, though. No more.
Speaking of great times, though, this Duel album is fucking great.
Yes, it is awesome. I mean, this is... what I told you a minute ago, this is like straight out of 1971.
Right.
It even, I mean, it just sounds like it and it feels like it, and it's just, you really feel like this is something that was like at the roots of heavy metal, but.
And that you missed somehow.
Yes, that we missed, you know, it was awesome.
It's like, they definitely have that stonery, doomy, psychedelic-y kind of feel, but at the same time, like you said, there's tons of stuff throughout this song and this album that just reminds you of that 70s era hard rock. And, you know, all the great stuff from that era, UFO, Robin Trower, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a total, like I said, it's like it was the beginning of something, and somehow we missed it because it's got everything of like, you know, so this is where metal came from, but it's not, you know, because it's, like you said, it's got classic stuff, but it's also like, you know, heavy stuff. It's just, I mean, and I say that in the best possible way, you know, with the best possible meaning. That's how good this is, and it's so fun to listen to.
Yeah, they need to tour with our buddies Night Demon.
Yes, they do. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd go to that for sure.
Yeah. Well, speaking of seeing these guys live, Saturday at Rocklahoma, they are playing the Axis stage at 1:40.
Yes.
That's a good hour at least, or maybe, I think the gates open at 2 this year. Okay. But anyway, that's probably about their set. It'll probably be 30 minutes. So watch these guys and then head over head in.
Exactly.
And they're actually a couple bands after Stainless Revenge the same day.
Okay.
He's kicking that stage off that day, I think at noon. And speaking of them, this coming Thursday on that episode, we're going to have a brand new Stainless Revenge track.
Love it.
So just
those guys are awesome.
Yeah, another Rocklahoma band to look out for. But also, speaking of Duel, if you're in the Tulsa area or anywhere, just get on their Facebook and look it up. But they're on tour opening up for Pallbearer.
Yes.
And that's coming to the Guthrie Green in Tulsa. And that's just weird to say, right?
I know, but it's great to say.
That lineup is going to be at Guthrie Green. For those of you that aren't around here, Guthrie Green's just an outdoor grassy knoll.
Yes.
Basically, where
it's where
people gather for concerts, and it's always like fucking acoustic rock.
It's always acoustic stuff, family friendly. You know, there's a splash pad and, you know, people doing Zumba.
Yeah.
And, you know, eating their muesli and shit. And that's not going to be what this is. This is going to be... This is going to be some hard-hitting, doomy shit. And so it's great to see, you know, I mean, it really is.
It'll be amazing to see the music and just to see people walking by's reaction. To
say, you know, walking their Great Danes going, what the fuck is this? You know, whatever dog is in.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fucking hipsters.
Yeah. Basset Hounds.
Fuck you, all right? Dude, Basset Hounds are pure stoner metal, and you know it.
That's true.
That's what the Graph even said one time, the meme, you know?
Oh, really?
But yeah, you know.
Makes sense.
You know Merc gets down with some Monster Magnet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about before we get into this? Hey, 9 Inch Nails. That's a good topic.
That is a good one. Yes, definitely.
Well, they just announced this tour the other day, and along with it, they announced that they're skipping, at least at first, totally skipping online sales or phone sales even. You have to go to the box office like it's 1988.
Yeah.
Well, then you can even call, but you can't even call now.
Yeah.
You have to go like it's 1808.
Yes.
And just show up to purchase your ticket to get in the Coliseum, basically, you know? That's way before 1808, but whatever. The point is, if you want to see 9 Inch Nails on this tour, I think it's this coming Friday, maybe.
Yeah.
You got to walk up to the box office and stand in line like the old days.
Like the old days, yeah. And I even like, you know, the way they described it in the press release. You know, you as a human are gonna go talk to another human.
Yeah.
And you might find other like-minded people in line wearing black to talk about music with.
Right.
And it's a great point, and I like that idea. The cool thing is they admitted, this might kind of suck, but it's gonna suck less than.
It's still gonna piss off someone.
Yes, exactly. But what is it we all goddamn went through with the Metallica stuff recently? That's a good example. Nosebleed seats were going for $60, and they went so fast that they were already up for resale, the verified resale bullshit, for $130. What the fuck is that all about?
Right.
And I don't like that. I don't condone it. I think it's bullshit, but I still got Metallica tickets.
Right.
So fuck me, So and I do not like Nine Inch Nails at all. I'm not big on industrial type kind of stuff. You know that. That's how I've always been. I don't hate them. I don't think they suck. They're just not my thing.
Right.
But I always like how they do stuff. They put a free EP on their website one time.
Yeah.
And just said, hey, this one's on us. I like that kind of shit. And they're doing this kind of stuff, which, if anything, just starts a conversation about, maybe it's time something starts, changing about some of this stuff.
Right.
So I totally love that they're doing this and respect them. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. One time he put a full album on there and said, you can have it free or you can pay if you want.
Whatever you want.
And then they had like a deluxe version of it that was like $150, and it sold out the first day. So, I mean, that's how much people are cool with what they do.
Exactly.
But at the same time, the only downfall to this is if it's not coming to your city, you have no way to get tickets that first day.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, there's...
And that's the thing that sucks, I guess,
Yeah. But, we're older dudes, and we're always like, back in our day or whatever, it was always cool. I always thought to go hang out in line to get tickets, Yeah. It's cool now to just get them instant. They go on sale as well. But
exactly, yeah.
So it's both sides have its advantages, but like they said, all the best seats will be available just like they used to be right at the box office at 10 a.m. or whatever time it is.
And then later they're going to go on sale online, right? Isn't that what she said?
I think they said at a later date.
Yes, later date, yeah.
So I don't know if it's just for the first day or a few days you can go to the box office, how that works, but there you go. Maybe they'll start a little trend. Who knows?
It's awesome.
Well, let's talk about Adam Joad.
Let's do it.
Adam Joad is back.
Scattered Hamlet.
Yeah. Like I said, fourth time. It's been actually quite a while. This is episode 171. The last time he was on was with the full band on episode 96.
Oh, okay.
And that was not long after, it might have been the day, actually. Yeah. Well, the day we recorded it was the day Swamp Rebel Machine was released.
Yes, it was their CD release party in Tulsa.
Yeah. And then it came, we put that out like a week later. But the band's also been on episode 76 and episode 24. So there's 3 times to go back and check it out. And all 3 of those are fantastic. Every dude in this band is great to talk to.
Yes.
They're extremely passionate about music, about what they do, and about all kinds of other things. And so this is the first time we've had on Adam Joad by himself. Was it the Saxon episode, I think, maybe? Or was it the Chris McCarville episode where we talked about the recent show we saw?
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, it was in the past 2 or 3 episodes. Go back and check that out. We saw Scattered Hamlet with Final Drive in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And just like always, they kick ass. But yeah, this one he goes over all the stuff, what's coming up for these guys. And I guess that's good to go, right?
Yeah, definitely. Let's let everyone hear it.
All right, here's Adam Joad from Scattered Hamlet. First thing first, you guys just finished this tour last week. What was the emotion like doing this tour without Jake?
It was weird. It was it was important for us to do, just to remind ourselves that we could do it. It wasn't the most optimal tour, but it was good. We needed it, and we needed to do it to make sure that we're ready for all the stuff that's coming up in July.
So is that stuff you can talk about?
Oh yeah. We got there's a lot of dates that still are unannounced, but we're gonna be doing a tour around Rockfest in Minnesota. Warped Tour in Nashville, Warped Tour in Houston, and we're doing Jessica White of the Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia's 62nd birthday party as well. So we're going to be tying everything together, around those kind of four things, and releasing a new the cover song we've been talking about for a while. We ended up deciding to push it back a little bit, but yeah, it's coming out as well.
Well, can you give us an update on how Jake's doing?
It's a struggle, man. I haven't heard Jake's voice since this happened in September. There's still no talking, and there's progress. It's very slow progress. When we're talking progress, we're talking about being able to move your hand a few inches to the right and left, like that kind of thing. So it's tough, but he's surviving, and there, like I said, there's progress. Just a hell of a lot slower than we'd like to see, for sure.
Yeah, at that OKC show, Rich had told us that he had showed him some wrestling. I don't know if it was like the 25th anniversary of Raw or something. And he said he could see it in his eyes and his movement that that he was into it.
Yeah, there's that. There does seem to be recognition. Like, if there's things that he liked before and you show him on video, he tracks it with his eyes. As opposed to things that don't interest him, he just kind of like looks off. Kind of gazes out in a different direction. So there's definitely signs of awareness and that sort of thing there. But it's which is promising. But that when we went out and saw him for the first time in January, it was a lot. Just no other way to put it,
Right. Well, speaking of that cover single, was that did you guys say that is this like a tribute basically to Jake?
Yeah, 100%. We decided, since the last bit of the Swamp Rebel Machine touring cycle got cut off, we wanted to put something out before we were ready to, start recording or anything again. And, we wanted, and we know by the time we record the next album, that a lot of people will be hearing us for the first time, and they might not, understand who Jake was and, what he meant to the band. So we wanted to make sure that, we put something out that they showed them. So we went online, we let people throw out their ideas for a cover tune. We picked one. We had his best friend, who's also our producer. He produced it. His brother was the one who shot the video for it. So there's clips of Jake and stuff. So it's a pretty good tribute, and it came out actually a lot better than we thought it was going to. So that's why we pushed it back a little bit. Instead of dropping it in April, we're like, we can wait on this till we get all the July stuff announced, and I think it's the best move.
Well, was the song you guys picked, was it something you hadn't thought of before when someone suggested it, or was it one of those songs that you guys had already had in mind?
No, we did not have this one in mind. This one 100% came off one of the suggestions online, and we got a lot of great suggestions. We had a lot of horrible suggestions. And we demoed quite a few different ones, and they kind of changed as our mood did too, because you go through a lot of emotions when something like that happens. Like sometimes you're sometimes you feel like you could take on the world. Sometimes you feel reflective and dark. Sometimes you're just pissed, and it was really important that what we picked was something that kind of transcended all that and kind of was more about us and, what we think, as opposed to just, that small moment in time. Like us doing a real dark, reflective ballad is not really what we do. So it didn't make sense for us to do something like that, for something that's going to be with you forever,
So was it, when you said it was, kind of out of left field, was it hard to learn or hard to pick up?
No, it actually is something that I've had on my practice list for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's one of those ones that's more about, it's less about being hard. It's more about just executing it correctly. And, that was particularly vocally. And, of course we had a different drummer, come in and do it. One of our buddies, Dave he's in a band called Diamond Lane. And he played on the recording for it. And this was before Grant, joined up with us for touring and stuff. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, particularly vocally, this was something that I had to get better at to pull off. And we also we recorded it with all four of us playing live in a room at the same time, which is something we've never done before. We've recorded with three of us playing live at the same time, but playing with two guitars, bass, and drums all live was a new thing for us. So we did it old school. We hammered it out, and I think the results are gonna be cool. I think people are gonna be. I think they're gonna like it. I don't know if they'll be excited about what we pick because I think a lot of people won't know it, but they should.
Was that something, obviously you're not going to say it now, but is it something you guys are going to announce like when you release it, or are you going to announce it ahead of time?
We haven't really talked about it yet. I mean, it's from 1984. I'll give you that.
Well, then it's got to be good. That was a great year.
Hell yeah, that was a great year for music, no doubt. And it's something that I think like yourself and myself and other, like I call us all music nerds, are all going to appreciate. But I also think it's something that people that didn't catch it the first time around are going to appreciate a little more now too. Mm-hmm. And we put our spin on it. There wasn't a lot of slide playing and that kind of stuff happening in 84. So we threw our SH kind of stuff in there, but at the same time kept it pretty true. I'm really curious to see what the fellas who originally recorded it think of it. I want to see if they're going to tell us we suck or not. Because we're going to come across them at a festival, so I'm curious.
Nice.
Well, there's another clue.
Yeah.
That's a clue.
Well, talk a bit about what Dave brought to the recording, and then again what Grant brought to the tour.
Dave for the recording, he did he's a friend. He did he's a Berkeley guy. So he's a professional. He came in like a professional sessions guy. We rehearsed it one day before. We all went in the studio and we landed it. Like that was just kind of how that worked. It was very, we had a good time, but it was still, it was like, it's like punching a clock at the office, And now touring wise and stuff, our whole, I mean, y'all know, we're like kind of a live thing with energy and stuff. So we had to finding our live player was a little more difficult. We auditioned people all across the country, and we had some really killer people that wanted to do it but couldn't do it full time, which was very flattering. And we ended up with the most promising candidates being in Nashville, and of them, we walked in a room. We played. Adam Newell and I played with Grant. We played Shelter with him the first time. And, Adam and I just, looked at each other and, we just kind of turned around and we're like, all right, dude, you've got the job, so now let's just practice. and, it was literally like that. I mean, we could have walked out on stage and played it. He did it like that. And that's what we needed. I spoke to him on the phone a few times. He just did this last run with us. We all got along well. And, he's got experience, like I said, he's a Nashville guy, so it's kind of cool to have a, that kind of background. He understands our world. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, when we saw you guys in Oklahoma City, he brought a lot of energy, and I guess that's something you got to do with your band, and plus filling in for Jake. Yeah,
it was what a weird position for him. It was, first time we played Rockfest, there was homemade Bean Dip 316 signs getting held up and stuff, so
yeah,
that's crazy. By people we don't even know, and it was pretty crazy for him to walk into that position. Number one, takes confidence, in being yourself, and number two, it's just weird because we didn't want to freaking Jason Newsted the guy, and yeah, because it was one of those things where I told him, I was like, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. We need you here, but we don't want you here.
Yeah.
and that was my first phone conversation I ever had with him.
Yeah.
It was
and if he's cool, he understands that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he was, I was like, there were some other guys that, that were really good too, but I just thought they were too pushy, there's going to be backlash. The fans aren't going to like someone that's trying to be like, hey man, look at me. Mm-hmm. They're going to want somebody that's just going to make you look at them and, keep the train driving like it's always been driving. That's what we needed, So it was more than about just playing, it was about the right person at the right time. So, that was all super important,
Well, talk about the Stonewall Jackson video. I know you guys did this all guerrilla style. Are there any like funny stories or crazy stories that came about from that?
Yeah, there's some ridiculous ones. Like my favorite part of that was when we were filming. It was like doing GoPros and stuff. And Rich was, when Rich was doing it down by the riverboat there on the, I believe it's the Ohio River. It's in that's right outside of Louisville, which was cool for him because that's where he's from. There was like basically we just wheeled a bass rig out there and he just set up and started playing. Like why we played the music in the background. Like so there's like people walking by like what the hell is happening here? And there was like this one homeless dude who would not leave us alone. It was like one of the where you try to be cool and he's like, oh man, you guys rocking? Like, what are you doing? I'm just like, dude, just let us do this. Like I'll buy you a hamburger and some Mad Dog 2020. Just go somewhere else.
Always the Mad Dog, man. Love it.
Yeah, that's what I go with. It's Mad Dog or like your King Cobra. Those are.
Yes.
Wow. I never had King Cobra in my life.
Yeah, there's no need. That's just it's one of those, like. It's like sub Old English 800, which there you go.
God.
That's like,
that's bringing back some bad memories, man.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that was the funniest thing I remember from it. Just having a homeless dude, who's like, yeah, man, I play some. And you're just like, oh, I know, dude. Let us get this before we get a fine or get thrown out.
Well, a few years ago, Jason here told me you got to watch this documentary, so I watched it. I'm talking about the Wonderful Whites of West Virginia.
Yeah, it's a must see. I rewatched it like 2 weeks ago just because.
So, like, how did this all come about with you guys and the relationship of being able to play the birthday party and everything?
Dude, the greatest thing, like, I like you have seen that. And, I grew up, the Stonewall Jackson's about growing up on the West Virginia border here, so I'm familiar, with that kind of stuff. Not, and I, of course, know the Dancing Outlaw, but, like, it's not like I knew these guys personally or anything. And, we just got, like, an email one day that was just like, hey, we're interested in having you play Jessica White's birthday party. Where are you from? Like, it was just like real quick. And I was like, and I explained, I was like, I grew up, a few miles north of Blacksville, West Virginia on the PA side. And they were just like, okay, cool. Like they're like, we're going to have a mechanical bull there. It's on the date. I was like, we're in. And, we just hashed out the details and, that was it. So I have no, I know it's a private thing, where they just kind of, do it on somebody's like farm out in Tennessee. And, I have no idea what to expect, but there's a mechanical bull there. Let's just, come on. Winning.
Well, hopefully you'll run into Mamie and Kirk too.
There's so many things.
Say hi to Kirk for me for sure.
We're beyond excited, and it was kind of like a nod, it's like a credibility nod too, like it's we're I fly the Appalachian banner pretty hard, like so if they'd be the first person to call us out if we were posers for sure,
Yeah. Definitely.
Do you know who it was from that camp that was on to you guys?
I don't. I don't know who it was, but it was just like it was like a Facebook message too, and it was hilarious. That went on. It ended up being then there was like normal conversations too, but so it was cool. It's whoever does the it's whoever does their event planning. I don't believe it's one of the whites, but it's whoever is in charge of putting together that stuff. So
okay. Well, on a totally different flip side of that, your guys are also doing those Warped Tour dates. Like, what do you expect the crowd reaction to be like to you guys?
I don't know, man. I was like, our manager told me not to bring Tide Pods and taunt the millennials. But,
well, you guys played Warped Tour before, right?
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Before we even started touring, we got
Okay.
on it like early on, just by virtue of someone who was playing in the band at the time, and it was a cool experience, But like any band, we're a lot different of a band than when we started.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were just cutting our teeth and learning to play our songs out and kind of discovering who we were at the time, And now we're pretty aware of who we are, and we're doing I was a little, I was hoping some of my friends from like, more famous punk bands were going to be there because, I would have had them come out and do something with us, to give us a little more of a bit of a credibility nod for that community. So they understand that, when you look at us, you wouldn't think that we should be there. But if you know our background, it actually makes a lot of sense, But it turns out none of them are on any of those dates. So we're on our own, and we're going to go out there, and it should be interesting. I'm sure there's going to be some kids who think it's like they've never seen anything like it. I'm sure there's some people that are going to think it's the most horrible thing they've ever seen, and maybe I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be weird, but it's going to be cool. It's it's a last work tour. We feel I'm very grateful. Kevin Lyman himself was the one who greenlit us to be on there. So that was that
that's
was cool.
great.
Yeah, that meant a lot right there. So it's so it should be cool. I have no doubt. I'm no stranger to playing in front of people that don't know us or that are hostile. I kind of my personality kind of laughs at that kind of shit. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the Warped Tour thing. Maybe we'll bust out a punk rock cover or something. But it's funny, if I busted out a punk rock cover, it would be something that like the youngsters wouldn't even know. So
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah, it would be like one of those things. Like, yeah, I was walking around Huntington Beach one time, and there were these skater kids outside of like this one store, and they were looking. They're like, dude, you got a Black Flag tattoo. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, were you in the band? I was like, Christ, man, how old do you think I am, dude? I was too young to have seen Black Flag, and you think I was in the band.
That would put you like 55 or something.
Yeah, I mean, unless like, I'm not talking like the new Flag, like that,
Yeah.
Mike Filelli sings in or whatever, but, who I'm a fan of, by the way, but not, like, I'm a fan of him and Revolution Mother and his stuff, but yeah, it's, who knows, man. It'd be a weird, so who knows, at that concert also, I have him, last time I was at Warped Tour, I also had a Misfits tattoo, and, some kid was like, man, the Misfits, fuck yeah, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm a huge Danzig fan, and the kid looked at me confused.
Oh, God.
And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, you don't know that Danzig signed for the Misfits. There you go.
Where do you start with all that?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like I'm like, cool, man, have a good day.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not here to be punk rock Yoda today.
Yeah, we were at Riot Fest a couple years ago, and there was like half the size of the crowd at The Damned as there was at some of these new bands that were really shitty.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And it's, we just saw, when we were in January, we got to see, me, Rich, and Adam went to watch Anti-Flag play at the Troubadour in L.A. They sold it out, and it was cool. Like, like those guys are, and towards the like 90s punk rock, like the bands that have come out in the 90s punk rock and have stayed like relevant and stuff, and stayed like street and stuff, like they're great. It was really cool to see, I love punk rock swagger and attitude. I am a metal guy, there's no doubt. I'm a classic rock dude. I like mullets, I like IROC Z's and stuff. There's no question. But I do like that, that punk rock, kind of we saw the Addicts too, actually, in January.
Oh, wow.
We were all punk rock in January. I was talking to, and I didn't even know it. Like, what was it? You remember the band Good Charlotte with the two Madden brothers?
Yes.
Or whatever?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I was talking to one of those dudes, and he was like, we were backstage at one of those shows, and he was like, And he was really nice, and he was talking to me, but I had no idea who he was until, like, you know, Rich came over and started talking to him about some of their albums. And then, like later on, Rich was like, "You have no idea who you're talking to, do you?" I was like, "No, I have no idea." But, you know, it was funny, you know, it was like, you know, listening. Because I remember, like, that kind of stuff was popular when I was young, you know, coming up in the music scene. So, and I'm not a fan of, like, whiny pop punk at all, but, you know, you got to give it up to people that, you know, obviously they struck a chord and, you know, sold a shitload of records. Good on them, you know. But yeah, it's good stuff. Strange stories. We have strange SH stories, like people you'll see us running into, like people you wouldn't think.
Right. Well, yeah. You got all this stuff going in July. Do you have concrete plans for later in the year? Or is it just kind of a look at it when the time comes for the next album and that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's kind of what we decided, you know. Like, I imagine, you know, it's the new album's half written already. You know, like, it's half demoed out. I mean, like, they need ironed out. So, like, I'm sure when I start writing again, you know, I'm sure the guys will throw a few songs. It would come together pretty fast. We just, you know, we're not like one of those bands that, like, you know, I think that the label machines that, like, you know, oh yeah, it's time to put out an album now. Well, this album came out this time. You have to have new content. That's all bullshit, because none of these labels even know what the hell's going on in the music business right now. Right. You know, when the new album's ready, we will record it and we will put it out. You know, and it'll be the best example of that. I'd rather, you know, take our time with stuff and make it a natural progression, you know, for the band than to just throw stuff together, you know. So you have a bunch of the, you know, I call it the copy and paste radio rock. You know, like,
oh yeah, God.
Breakdown, main riff, chorus where the guy comes down, and then big hook that sounds the same as everything else. Like those 4 parts, you can just paste every song together.
Yeah.
It blows. You know, I don't want to do that. You know, we've got offered to take record deals and do that. We told them no. It's like, you know, I'd probably have more money, but, you know, it's like at the same time I would have to play that shit every night.
No shit. Yeah, exactly. I don't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you got to think about. You know, it was like, you know, it's like this is what you're putting your name and your stamp on, that's going to be out there, you know, far beyond when you're done playing music, if you're lucky. And yeah, that's not what I wanted to leave behind. So, you know, fuck it, not going to do that.
Yep.
We always try to pride ourselves in not asking stupid questions. What's the most jabroniest thing you've ever been asked in an interview?
Some of the ones that bother me are ones that are like obvious, like you know, like if somebody asks us like what our name means, but they really don't even know, that, like, if they're asking us so we can explain it to fans, that's one thing. But if you like ask it to us, that means you didn't even click on our Facebook page. Like, you know, it's like people that haven't done like any like research or anything on the band. It's just like, oh yeah, here's these guys, you know, and here's these sets of questions, and it's kind of like, did you even like do you even know who you're talking to? You know, not that I think I'm anything special, but like, you know, if you're gonna do something, you should at least know who you're talking to. Like, hey, look, when you guys started this interview, what's the first question you asked? How's Jake? Well, number one, that shows you know who Jake is. You know he was in an accident. You've obviously followed the band somewhat on social media. You know, it's just a little bit of awareness. You know, like it goes a long way. I mean, you don't have to know us personally, but you have to, you know, at least do some research. You know, something. But in terms of that, somebody asked us what a jab or oni was.
Oh my God.
We're like, a what? They're like, a jaboroni? And I'm like, you mean a jabroni? They're like, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, it's...
you tell them, then you are one.
Yeah, I didn't want... They actually were really cool, and it was a cool interview, but it was just a really funny question, because it was almost like, you know, it was you know, it was pretty funny. I've never really had anyone be rude or anything yet. You know, like, I mean, I think it happens at some point. You know, like, you know, you'll come across somebody, but you know, we've been pretty fortunate, because, you know, I think people like yourselves and media and, you know, music blogs and all these things and music go together. Like, I think it's like it's one and the same thing that helps each other out. You know, It's like, without you guys folks like you, like writing about us, people don't hear about us. Without us doing this, you don't have things to write about. So it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship, you know? So I don't understand bands or journalists for that matter that kind of like are adversarial against each other. Like, you know, I don't like metal. There's metal blogs. I'm not even going to mention them by name because I don't like to, you know, I don't want to give anybody any publicity. But like, I don't like things that are dedicated to ripping stuff down.
Yeah.
You know, like, isn't there enough division in the hard rock and metal world, like, you know, with all the different subgenres of strangeness, like to have to like have blogs that are like TMZ or something that just make fun of shit. You know, it's like
no kidding.
Yeah, it's like, come on. I mean, and I'm not talking like the hard times, which are like funny articles. I mean, like people that are like trying to be funny but are actually just being assholes and like, you know, just dissing on people that are just, you know, trying to do their thing. You know, if it's not your thing, don't talk about it. You know?
Another question I had for you is, in the area that you're from, have you noticed a bunch of bandwagon Philadelphia Eagle fans showing up out of the blues all of a sudden?
You know, not where I'm from, because everybody hates Philadelphia where I'm from. Like, we don't even like regard that as part of Pennsylvania. Sorry, Pennsylvania. Sorry, Philly. I have no slams. Like, but to us, that's like the other side of the world. Like, you can't get further from Philadelphia and Pennsylvania than where we live, basically.
Gotcha.
And so like this is Steeler country. Like, it's Penguins country, it's Steelers country. Like, football, like in college, varies because like it's split. You know, some people like Pitt, some people like Penn State, some people like WVU. It just kind of, because there's a lot of those in proximity. But in terms of professional sports, there's no. Philadelphia will never get any respect in this, you know, corner of the world unless we're talking about Rocky or It's Always Sunny. Yeah, but
yeah, those are good exceptions.
Yes.
Yeah, those are solid exceptions. And you know, we've had great shows in Philadelphia. I have friends that are from Philadelphia, but I do not regard them as being from the same place as I am. It's just different. That's Jersey, man.
Have you guys still had trouble breaking into Pittsburgh like you talked about a while back?
Still, yeah. I'm in talks again. You know, like we're back at it. You know, like I threw him another date. You know, and we're talking back and forth. So it could happen this summer. I really hope it does. You know, and hope we could break that spell. I mean, you know, we could do something in my home area down here if we wanted to, but you know, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of places to put on like a you know, like that has a good stage to put on like a pro show to do it right, you know, and I would want to do it 100%, you know, if I did something, you know, in my home area and you know, so maybe that'll change sometime. But yeah, Pittsburgh would be cool. But you know, I you know, that is still, you know, an hour from here, you know, so but yeah, hopefully we get to play there, and you know, if not, then we'll continue to play the game until one day they ask us to play there. But someone did write to us and ask us to play there, but it was like a horrible deal, and they didn't even know who the band was, I don't think. But at least they asked.
Yeah, true,
right?
true.
Yeah. It's like, do you know? It's like, what anyway. Yeah.
Well, bringing it back around to the beginning, I forgot to ask, what was the tour like with Final Drive? Because those guys are badass, and I love seeing them live.
Very cool. You know, we all got along very well. You know, we kind of have a different approach to everything. So it's kind of a cool way to see another band that's kind of, you know, in a similar world, like how they tour and how they do their stuff. You know, everything down to how they run the merch table, to how they, you know, get set up for shows. Like, you know, I learned a lot watching that. Like, you know, it's kind of like stepping out and looking in. I learned a lot of like new things, and you know, they probably learned a lot of new things from us. You know, and we're, you know, we're definitely a strange operation too. So I'm sure we puzzled them a lot too with some of our things. Like, I know Jordan did not like pee bottles. That's Jordan from Final Drive for people. Yeah, he gets mad if there's pee bottles, and to us, pee bottles are just an essential part of the indoor plumbing in the van. So, like, think about it. You know, but like, I found out that he would get really upset if you leave your pee bottles on his van or in his van.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then the worst thing you could do is to show us that something bothers you, because then.
So you're gonna exploit that.
Yeah, because then it's like. You know? Especially when you're co-headliners, it's not like there's a pecking order, you know, so you don't have to, you know, so it's not like, it's not like if we were out with like Zach Wilde and his security would beat us up and throw us off the tour or something.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's like, so that was fun.
Nice.
And I miss yelling at their drummer Joe. Their first drummer, they had two drummers on the tour. Their first drummer Joey is also the drummer for Jasta. He wasn't at the show y'all were at, but I had fun messing with him because he's like a young guy, and I just always accused him of eating Tide Pods and trying to take my guns from me because he was from Connecticut. So this poor guy was just like, "What the hell? Like, listen here, millennial."
Damn.
Sorry, I have this terrible cough, but yeah. So he's like sees strange bearded people accusing him of eating Tide Pods and trying to take his guns. He's like, "I'm not trying to take your guns." It's like, "Yeah, you are."
Yes.
But the cool thing about it, his uncle is Ted DiBiase. His last name's DiBiase. So that was instant respect in our camp.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We're just like, whoa.
He gets a pass for sure.
Yeah, I was like, man, you should have led with that when you met us.
Right.
Like that would have saved you a lot of the millennial, yelling at you and stuff. And it was we had some fun. And he's it's great. He's a great drummer. He was a very accomplished like musician who's done a lot, as a young person. But you still had Rich like making fun of him, being like, "Hey man, when you upgrade to Hatebreed, let us know." Stuff like that. And meanwhile,
awesome.
Jasta's playing way bigger places than we are, So, but it's good stuff. Like but that's the kind of tour we had. It was a lot of fun. Like talking, joking back and forth with people like that, and that was cool. I'm glad we had that. I'm glad we had that experience, and like Final Drive. Some of the people that liked like the more extreme like metal, like the more heavy stuff, like didn't quite get us, and that's okay, and I'm sure it went both ways. I'm sure some of the people that were more classic rock leaning, that listened to us might have thought that was a little too intense, but there's but it's cool. You're gonna have that, like that's what happens when you we kind of knew that going in, and I don't think it was, negative or anything, but there are some people that'd be like, why are they together? Or, something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from a fan's perspective, on my end, I always love it whenever there's a mix like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of do too. I think Europe's got that figured out. You look at like some of those European festivals.
Yeah.
Like I get stoked when I see the lineups of those because I'm like, that would never happen in the United States. Because there'd be like, scenester kids and stuff in the background with their nose in the air going, "Oh God, why are they on the bill?"
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm like, no, this is amazing. Like we have freaking, you have like Iron Maiden in not Maiden usually plays their own like third world countries and like brings everybody there. Like they're amazing. That's a bad example. And now people from third world countries are gonna write me hate mail for that. But let's say, but like, yeah, you could have like a festival with like Megadeth, then like some church burning black metal band, and then like Kid Rock.
Yes.
Like all in the same festival. And to me, that's amazing. I'm like, yes. I'm like, this is so cool. That would get me excited. But like here, never. You would never see something like that. And it's it's there's a lot of like elitism in the hard rock world, and it's just it's unfortunate because it's not like. It's not like rock's getting a lot of play on the radio or getting like the push like it once did. So people are just like rock's dying. It's like, well, why is that? Like first, I don't necessarily agree with that statement. Second, it's like a lot of people that are listening. It's also comes back to on you guys. For splitting this up. You gotta there's a lot to appreciate out there for sure.
Definitely. Well, man, we appreciate your time.
Yeah, man. I always love talking to y'all. It was good seeing you guys in Oklahoma City, and we're still. We'll make sure when the single comes out and stuff, you guys will get to see what we're doing and stuff. So you can tell us if we were off base or on base.
Gotcha.
All right.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. You guys have a good one.
All right, you too. Take care. There you go, Adam Joad of Scattered Hamlet, back on this podcast. Like I said, for a fourth time. A huge thank you to him for taking the time out of his day to talk to us there.
Definitely.
Yeah, good 30 plus minutes, and Like I mentioned before, go back and check out episode 96, 76, and 24. All those are full band episodes. All three of those. And all three of those have Jake on it, which we need to mention like we have several times. Our thoughts and everything are going out to him, his family.
All the best, yeah.
And the other three guys in this band that, he keeps improving because, he's making slow progress like Adam talked about in this episode. So
definitely.
Huge shout out to Jake and, of course, to Rich and Adam as well.
Yes.
Look up Scattered Hamlet on Facebook. Follow him. Get Swamp Rebel Machine if you don't have it. Hillbilly Harmony. All their stuff's kick-ass. Just great to have these guys back. And an awesome live band. And Adam Joad is just like one of those guys that you could call a consummate frontman, right?
Yes, definitely.
Because everything he does, he's just fun to watch and great to listen to because not only is he kick-ass, he's hilarious as well.
Yes, he's got, he's got the music talent and then he's got the attitude that a frontman needs, the charisma. Yes, it's awesome.
All that comes from all his years as a wrestling fan.
That's right. And he's not a jabroni.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Jabroni free zone.
There you go. If you're a guitarist, if you want to tour in a band, don't message Adam Joad and ask him what band it is. Have you seen that post? That was pretty good.
I don't.
Or look it up when we're done.
Okay, we'll do.
This was totally random. Everybody's not going to know what the fuck
now
I'm
I gotta
about.
fucking look it up.
Anyway, once again, thanks to Adam Joad. Earlier we had Duel. Check them out on the Rocklahoma Access stage this Saturday of Rocklahoma at 1:40. And then also Tulsa area. They're going to be back on June 22nd at Guthrie Green, opening up for Paul Bearer.
Yes.
I know that our buddy Trevor will be out there because Paul Bearer.
You know it.
Yeah, Jason Carroll as well, me as well, but I assume that you won't be because you'll be kicking ass with Old Crow Medicine Show and Willie Nelson, right?
I'm going to see Willie and Old Crow and Sturgill Simpson. So
and J.D. McPherson.
And J.D. McPherson, yes.
Like way far away from here. So.
Yes, way far away from here, but why not? I want a fucking adventure.
Yeah.
And the Head and Heart, which I never thought that we'd ever mention that band name on the podcast, but finally. Why not? Why not?
It's fitting that we do it on an Adam Joad episode.
Yeah. Hipsters need love too, right?
Right.
Maybe not, but I'll go get a beer when they're playing, don't worry.
Adam Joad will probably let you know that Head and Heart eats Tide Pods.
And they're
probably trying to take away our guns, too.
They probably are.
Right? Well, like we mentioned previous episodes, we've got now a long list, 170 episodes. Like I said, 3 with Scattered Hamlet. You can look back and find 4 with Battlecross, 4 that include Mike DiPetrillo, whether it be with Driver or with Scott Bond of Death Grip.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned...
Which, by the way, he's playing with First Strike again this year at Rocklahoma.
Yeah, DiPetrillo is.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Just
he used to be with First Strike. It hadn't been that long ago, but several years ago. Mm-hmm. Basically probably around the time of Driver, he left to focus on that.
Yeah.
But he's back working with First Strike.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be a great one to check out as well at Rocklahoma. They're playing the Retrospect stage, along with, like we mentioned, our buddies Dead Metal Society, Down for 5, which you can check out an episode with both of them this coming week.
Yes, I can't wait.
Our Rocklahoma preview. And then we've got an episode coming up with Boba Flux. We've also had on John Connolly from Seven Dust, whose brand new album, All I See Is War, came out just this past Friday.
Yes, we're gonna break that down soon enough. We just need to listen to it more.
Of course.
To talk about it with you guys.
We've had on Childbite as well, and they just put out a brand new album.
Yes.
It's a collection of rarities, B-sides, and covers.
I want to order the cassette. You know me.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to end up doing that.
Well, like you said, you can get a cassette, a double CD that has like 28 songs, a poster, a t-shirt, and all of it's only like $30.
Yeah, you got to fucking love that.
Yeah. Childbite. They're quite an interesting band if you've never checked them out. But if you like heavy music, you'll like these guys.
Yeah, it's heavy, but it's also kind of on the noisy, punky kind of side. I love it. So, yeah, definitely check that out. Burnt Offerings.
Yep. Found on guys from King, Truck Fighters, The Sword, Crowbar, Super Joint,
Insight.
Yeah.
Miss May I.
Dokken.
Dokken.
Yeah. We've had on, if you like stuff like Dokken, we've had on guys from Lillian Axe, Taiketo, Warrant, Europe, Firehouse, Bullet Boys, Trickster.
Hey, we had on a guy from Saxon recently, didn't we?
We did. And speaking of kick-ass people, we had Gene Simmons on here.
Yes, we did. Totally. Some people might not think he's kick-ass.
That's true.
But he was kick-ass to us, so that's all that matters.
That's true. He was not a jabroni. He was cool as hell.
No, yeah. Think what you will. Whatever. We don't care.
Found on guys from Anvil, Sid Falk, formerly of Overkill.
Yes.
Jason Todd, formerly of Shinedown. Chris Broderick, formerly of Megadeth. Dave Elfson, currently and forever of Megadeth.
That's right.
Except for that short period where James Lomenzo was of Megadeth. But, you know.
Or James McDonough.
Right.
A little iced earth action there for you. Fun fact, Jason Todd is in Delacoma now, and we've had Delacoma on the show.
There you go. At some point,
Hell yes.
all this shit winds together.
Yeah, they're all going to be in bands together at some fucking point.
That's right. Adam Joad will be the fourth member of Bell Biv DeVoe at some point.
One can only hope.
That's right. All that is at soundcloud.com/Thunder-Underground. You can also find it at thethunderunderground.com and pretty much anywhere podcasts are heard.
That's right.
YouTube at The Thunder Underground, Instagram at The Thunder Underground. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter. Get on Patreon. Look up Thunder Underground.
Yes.
Become a patron.
Please do.
All that helps. And
It does.
Speaking of helping, once again, thank you to our sponsors, Vitz Screen Printing and DEB Concerts.
That's right.
All right. Until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.